Disclaimer, we'd like to note before the start of this interview that the opinions about to be expressed by the guest on tonight's Gettin Salty Experience podcast are that of the guest and do not directly or necessarily reflect the views of the host of the Gettin Salty Experience podcast.
Put the fucking fire out!
You're listening to the Gettin Salty Experience podcast.
Hello! And hello! Look at Kenny filling in from the kitchen table.
What's up?
That's right.
How you doing?
Hello. Welcome back to the Gettin Salty Experience. Who do we got there? Rob Procaccini, Pee-wee. We got Cameron Cooper. We got City News Support. That guy sends me stuff all the time for the Cup of Joe and Fuego. Lucas Sauer, QC Beastwood, Doug Doyle. All the usuals are in there.
Doyle?
Yep, Doug Doyle. Welcome back. How are you guys? How are you, Kenny? Filling in for Louis tonight.
Outstanding. Thanks again for having me, brothers.
Oh, we love you. You like the new part of the crew. Louis got this turned into, he got the old stinky pinky back into that now. Yep. I don't know how it's going to affect his golf swing. I don't know how it's.
Sorry for the. Sorry. My hand gesture may have got out of control.
We wish my man Ruffy the best and a speedy recovery. Everything went well. I told him to stay out of the light, little buddy. Don't go into the light. Stay out of the light, buddy.
Is that a new monument or something I see in your background there?
What, that?
Yeah, that could be Billy. You got a little piece of it. I don't know what that is.
Clock.
Okay. You need to keep.
I just found it. She got me for me 2 Christmases ago, but it just climbed up now. So
It's a fire clock.
It's there.
Yep. It glows all sorts of colors, but it'll be very distracting. I don't want to do that to you.
We'll do that.
Before we get started on the show, I have to wish a very, very, very happy birthday to Mrs. Christine Procaccini. Mwah! We love her. I think Mrs. Procaccini's husband is in the chat. There he is, Rob.
Is he?
Dean.
All right.
Gorgeous hunk of woman. Happy birthday.
It's the overtime clock.
Happy birthday.
Oh, that's good.
That works more overtime than you can shake a stick at.
Oh, you know what? I had a little something like that. Okay, leave it. I don't want to play too much. I don't want to play too much. I don't want to get in any trouble, you know.
Oh yeah, I get whacked
for that song.
Man. So silly.
Oh God,
They're a little crazy, but that's
I'm working on the membership thing for the Gettin Salty Experience podcast. We can join as a member, different levels, different tiers. We're going to take some of the content that we were given to the Salty Wire and some new content. It's cheap too. It's like $2.99 a month, $3.99. Some of them you get all these new emojis, you get stickers, your question goes up. I don't know, but it's coming out soon. I'm going to work on it.
All right, excellent.
nice.
Yeah,
Nice.
coming soon.
Yeah, coming soon.
Yeah.
All right,
What else you got? Anything else?
No.
We had a good show tonight. As you know, it's the 30th. Was the 30th anniversary, right?
Yes, it's just a little bit over. I think it was something. Right?
April 19th.
April 19th, 1995.
Yep.
We have one guy that was there first due, and we got Philly McCardle, our resident hazmat guru, who was on the USAR team, who went over there on the second day.
You know what that stands for, right?
Here comes something with your overtime. But I don't know what.
No, USAR. Stacking and restacking. Sometimes when you're in the warehouse, kind of doing your thing, you move it here, you put it over there. We don't like it over there. We got to move it over here.
I did a little bit of overtime right before I got out. Hey, Coop, do me a favor. Look at that and put that pile over in that pile. I don't care if it takes you all night. All right, no problem. I can do it.
Listen, I live it. I know it. That's what we call it. You know. Anyway, a little humor on ourselves there. But anyhow.
All right, let's play some commercials really quick.
All right, let's hear from
my man Armor Tic Tac.
All right, you got a minute 39 seconds to come up with a good response, and make sure you get it right. Salesman of the Northeast, let's go.
Need a new floor for your fire station? Choose an Armor Tough interlocking flooring system to cover your aging, stained, cracked concrete or epoxy floor. Around for nearly 20 years and proven to be the best choice in renovating your station floors, covering nearly 600 floors across the country, Armor Tough is proudly made in America and comes with a lifetime warranty with floors that are usually installed in 1 or 2 days, depending on the size of your station, and no disruption in the process to your station's operations. Our system is guaranteed from chipping, cracking, peeling, breaking, or staining. The tiles are stain resistant and impervious to chemicals or volatiles that are used in the fire service. If you damage one tile, you can lift and replace without anyone knowing. And once it's installed, your floor would be easy to clean with just soap and water. It's not only for apparatus rooms. You can install an Armor Tough floor in virtually any room and choose from the hundreds of colors from the Designer Series or, if you like, from the Utility Series floor coverings. Are you in need of gear racks, an extractor, or gear dryers? Install an Armor Tough floor in your apparatus bay and take full advantage of a deep discount, saving you thousands of dollars on any of the Grove products line. Why install a breakable epoxy floor that'll need replacing in 5 to 10 years when you could have a floor that will last a lifetime? The Armor Tough flooring system is half the price of epoxy and will last a lifetime without issue, more importantly. Join the hundreds of career and volunteer departments nationwide who have chosen an Armor Tough interlocking tile floor. Call Vince today for a no-obligation quote at 908-917-7697.
Or you can just email me at coopspodcast@gmail.com for a Cooper Tough floor.
Fuck it up. I'm sorry. That's right. My bad.
I haven't got one call. I guess you guys don't need lifetime warranty on your floor.
Lifetime
Lifetime warranty.
I know my wife's Asian, right? Lifetime.
All right. I see what you did there. Good recovery.
So your wife will come and clean the floors for you.
Yes.
Along with the warranty.
Yes, and the warranty. Lifetime.
Mention Coobs in your ad, and you'll get $500 off. No, I'm just kidding. Can't back that up.
Yo, wait, no promises there, guys.
That's what I'm saying. I can't back that up.
No.
It's all rumors. It's all lies.
Yeah, coopspodcast@gmail.com. Send it to me if you want a new floor. Come out. Maybe I'll even buy you lunch. Come on. All right.
Here we go. Number 2, Mr. New Jersey Fire.
Established in 1930 and under the current ownership since 1987, the New Jersey Fire Equipment Company handles a complete line of fire department equipment and supplies. Headquartered in Greenbrook, the company operates full 3M Scott service facilities in Ridgefield Park and Toms River, staffed by 10 fully authorized Scott certified technicians with a fleet of 6 fully equipped service vans. All New Jersey Fire technicians and sales representatives are active or retired firefighters, officers or chief officers, career and volunteer. They understand the business and the importance of their work. New Jersey Fire has represented Scott since Earl Scott entered the SCBA business at the end of World War II. Among other leading manufacturers represented by New Jersey Fire are Globe and Firedex Turnout Gear, Mercedes Hose, Task Force Tips and Akron Brass, Hygenol, Fire Hooks, Arctic Compressors, MSA Carnes Helmets, ChemGuard Foam, Alkalite and Duo Safety Ladders, BA Face Shield Protectors, Truckman's Choice Saws, Grove's Gear Racks and Washer Dryers, Supervac Fans, RPI, Streamlight, and many others. A New Jersey incorporated and based company, sales and service are limited to the state of New Jersey. Find us now at www.njfe.com. That's www.njfe.com.
Look at this son of a bitch. Use the code DWARF for 10% off. Son of a bitch.
Well,
oh no, you can
can't
say
say it
that.
anymore. You got a fixed knee. So, I mean, you know.
Right, I gained an extra inch, bro.
No, you didn't.
You haven't seen me yet. All right, let's bring him in here. Let's bring our esteemed guest in here. We got first coming in from Oklahoma City, Chief Mike Walker.
Thanks for having me.
Hey, yo, check it out.
Now we got the Bomb Diddy of Hazmat Ops, bro. This guy was doing Hazmat when Gonzo was kicking shit out of his diapers. Let's bring him to the stage. We got Philly McConnell, Hazmat 1, baby.
All right.
Well, gentlemen, guys, put out your pencil and paper and start jotting down in the pre-show. I was fascinated.
All right, let me find out who that is.
Who is that?
Lou's like now going crazy. Let me just see who it is. Give me a second.
Check.
It might be Philly.
Yeah.
Let me see.
I sent you 14 pictures, Gonzo.
14. I counted 13, but who's counting? But I have
13.
Oh, he
I
did
sent you 13.
Yeah, I already.
You busted his balls. Say you have 30 minutes to send them over, McConnell.
Look, You got him. So we got 13.
I actually got him off Hazmat's website. So
There you go. All right, let's get patriotic before we proceed any further.
Absolutely. Here we go.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Greatest country in the history of the world, gentlemen.
Yes.
Love
Big
that you
thank
guys
you
did.
actually for Monday. Remember, Monday was Memorial Day. We weren't there. So a big thanks to all of our troops who have served and who are serving. So big thank you.
Thank you. All right, Chief, let's get into your career a little bit because we know Phil, but we don't know you really. So let's talk about, I know you're talking with Kenny about it a little bit, how you got involved in the fire service and, when you got on, and we'll lead right up to that day in 1995.
Okay. So I was just raised in South Oklahoma City, the suburb called Moore, blue collar town, and didn't really know, didn't have aspirations of being a firefighter necessarily. But in 1989, 3 Oklahoma City firefighters died in a flashover. And the fire department of the union tried to pass a sales tax and a public safety sales tax, and they got that passed. Unfortunately, as a result of those guys dying, so I can thank you for having my career to them. And some of the guys that I went to school with started applying, and so I started looking into it. And once I did, I realized, that's it. That's what I want to do. And so, luckily, the city was just doing back-to-back hiring processes, and I was able to get hired in one of those processes whenever I was 19. And so I couldn't believe they were paying me. It was so much fun, coming to work every single day. I'm a 19-year-old kid, so I fell for every single prank, and I loved every single second of it. And so, spent first couple of years I was stationed on South Oklahoma City. Then I went to West Oklahoma City. Then I got assigned to the Hazmat station, 94, I think it was. Mike Shannon was still the station officer there, who ended up being our first special operations chief during the Murrah Building. Anyway, so I'm stationed with those guys. Still one of the funnest crews, and I worked with some good crews over the years. That was one of the funnest crews I ever got to work with. Chris Fields was there.
How big is the department, Chief? How big is the department?
Now it's about, now I think it's like 1342 is what's budgeted. And at the time it was 988 where we were at, I think in 95, somewhere in there. It was less than 1,000. And I think I could be wrong on that, but I'm pretty confident on it. And so we had in 95, we had 33 stations. Now we have 38.
38 stations.
Yeah.
And one dedicated hazmat you had? That's what you went to?
Yes, sir. Yeah. Station 5, which is at Northwest 23rd and Broadway in kind of midtown Oklahoma City.
So
sorry, Coobs, was Hazmat, was that like a promotional? Did you have to take a test, or did you just apply?
No, I was just lucky enough that they wanted me. That was like one of the one stations in town that they got to ask for people to be on the crew, and I was fortunate enough that they wanted me.
Did you have a background in hazmat at all, or any chemistry?
No, sir. No, not a bit. I'd let them know that I wanted to go, and at that time, Phil, you may know him, Clint Greenwood had promoted to sergeant at the time, which gave an opening for a firefighter, and I got to get his spot there.
All right. So you sure it wasn't, hey, we got to get this guy Mike over here. He falls for the pie, smells funny.
That might have very well been it.
Hey, Mike, smell that pie. It smells funny.
Yeah.
Oh, got me again.
Yeah.
Yeah. You sure that was in it? Yeah. All right, so is that just hazmat, or do they run, like, were you running fire? Oh, there you go. That's big.
Yeah, we ran. At the time there was an engine company, a truck company, and the hazmat unit, and so we were cross trained. We run fire calls. We ran EMT. We ran like a regular fire station, but we also ran the hazmat calls in town.
How many hazmat calls were you guys running at? at that time? You know,
Man, I'm not even sure. In my opinion, it wasn't enough because I always wanted to be busy. But so I wouldn't even want to venture a guess.
right? What kind of rigs did you have at the beginning? Like that long, big rescue rig?
So it was all he wants.
It was all he wants.
In that hazmat unit that he showed the picture of, what made that unique is the motor was in the back of it. And so it made it quiet in the front, and it gave you an extra big cab, but it made the front end really light. So it rode like a lumber truck, but it was, it was cool unit though. But then the ladder truck 5 was 135-foot stick. And then engine 5 was, 1250 Class A pumper.
So you were popping wheelies with all that weight in the back.
What were like the majority of like the hazmat runs at that time? Was it just like gasoline flip over cars or whatever?
Yeah, a lot of it was on the highways, but there was also, Oklahoma, we had a lot of oil field stuff, a lot of tank batteries. And there was quite a bit of industrial, manufacturing here. So we made quite a few calls that were, the unknowns and stuff, but a lot of it was on the highways, just like most hazmat teams.
Right.
Now, Philly Max, when you guys started, you had an engine, right? As your first piece.
We actually, when we first started, it was a funny story. I told you guys about the transition from Rescue 4 to Hazmat. So John Dillon from Rescue 4, he had developed a second piece for them, which ended up being like a rescue type vehicle. And that ended up being our first piece. And then we had an engine as our second piece. So we were a 2-vehicle operation for a long time.
That was like, wasn't that like the what do you call its vehicle? Like the shop's vehicle, like one of those vehicles. The first piece had that Rescue 4 had. It
was, yes. Rescue 4 had a different first piece, but they had designed a second piece very similar to a rescue vehicle. So when it was decided that Hazmat was going to be a totally dedicated unit, it was during that transition period. So we had gotten their second piece, which looked like a rescue vehicle, and then our second piece ended up being a modified engine where the hose bed was completely removed, and we stored equipment on that.
Right. I don't want to get too far off the on the tangent here, but when you guys first became a hazmat, who decided? Like you guys rode with 7, right?
Yes.
Right. So who?
That was because of federal regulations. And
okay, so you guys just follow federal regulations and those positions,
right?
Provided.
Because one of the key things, Kevin, was you had to work in a buddy system. So you had a 2-man entry team, a 2-man backup team, a 2-man decon team, and then we had a 7th person who was a resource man who would look up information, collect all of the data at every incident, make the reports, make all the notifications and stuff like that, and then a company officer. So we had a normal New York City fire company has 25 firefighters, 3 lieutenants, and a captain. We had 35 firefighters, 4 lieutenants, 1 was an administrative lieutenant, and a captain. So our composition was a little different than the rest of the department.
Right. Did you run the same thing, Chief? Same 7-man?
We ran 4 minimum on Hazmat 5, and then if it got anything that was going to require an entry team, we would run as a task force, either send the engine or the ladder, but it was normally engine 5. And we would bring, when I was there, we called it Hazmat 55, which was the original Hazmat unit, which was a converted utility truck. And so that's how we would get primary, entry team, backup team, science officer, decon team, all that stuff.
Right. Like you look right. I was just there recently visiting the firehouse, Philly, and I couldn't believe the resource area now, what it has gone from with the meters they have in there and the mass spectrometer. And I mean, back in the day, it was all books, right? And phone numbers and a cell phone.
I'm going to tell you, Kevin, when we first started in Hazmat, one of the biggest novelties for a lot of chief officers was they could walk onto the hazmat rig, and we would hand them a cell phone, and they would talk to headquarters. That was unheard of.
Was
Now,
it the
you-
big one, like a
all
suitcase?
of us here are giggling and laughing, and you know that how ridiculous that sounds in today's world.
Yeah.
And somebody and the chiefs would be absolutely amazed. I can talk to headquarters? Yeah, you can talk to headquarters. Or we would say to them after an incident, Chief, here's the hazmat report. What do you mean the report's already typed? Yeah, the resource guy who was on the rig, he was typing the report while we were doing the job. Here's the report. They couldn't believe that that we had that kind of, or computers. Yeah. You think about onboard computers and stuff like that, and you know, it was just amazing. Yeah.
We were so high tech back then, but I bet Oklahoma City was still using the Pony Express to get messages over to.
All right, take this letter.
Pigeons.
Yeah,
truly amazing.
I can remember my father brought me to the firehouse to show me the first MDT that came in. Look, we have this computer on the rig. It sends you your runs. I was like, yeah, that's cool, man.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, Mike.
Absolutely amazing.
It really is how far it's come. Let's go. Let's read up to that day. What was it like? You know, you were working where? Were you working in the engine that day? Were you in the hazmat? What kind of day was it? You know, what were you guys doing before that? Right up to the call.
So I was driving Engine 5 that day. It was a beautiful day. It was sun shining. It was gorgeous outside, and we were doing our station duties, and that day was lawn day. It was lawn day and clean the kitchen day, and I drew the short straw and was having to clean out the refrigerators where the rest of the guys were outside mowing. And so
that's a short straw on a hot day.
And so Station 5 sits weird. Believe it or not, it kind of sits in the middle of the street and has a park that goes around Winans Park. And so whenever the bomb went off, I thought somebody ran into the station. You know, that somebody wasn't paying attention and came off the road and hit the station. So
how far away was the building from the firehouse?
About 1.5 miles.
Oh shit! Yeah, no doubt. Then, right? You must have heard it.
And so when I ran out in the rig room and looked at, out the front bay doors, didn't see anything. It looked out back, and I could see. I don't want to say it's a mushroom cloud, but there was a definite cloud that was coming up from the bomb, and it was like a dirty, like dirt and concrete colored. And so I'd never seen a cloud like that from an explosion. Seen it on TV plenty of times, but I'd never witnessed it. So because it was the hazmat station, we knew we were going to get dispatched on that. So we were actually rolling by the time the tones came out, dispatching us. And so
what did the call come over us, Chief?
Man, it just some type of an explosion, if I remember right.
Right.
And like I said, so it's not that far of a drive. So the first major intersection that you come to from 23rd Street, 13th Street, one of the things I remember is that the street was kind of this aqua blue, and it was from all the windows that had been blown out.
Wow.
And so we got to 5th Street, that's it was 5th and Broadway, and we backed the rig in. And so there was, I've never seen anything like that before. I didn't have any context for what it was. So in my own mind, I'm thinking natural gas explosion.
Right.
Something like that.
That's probably the last thing on your mind, right? Like somebody...
Yeah, but it's something like what actually occurred. We'd have never thought that would have happened in Oklahoma City. That only happens in the big cities, right? And so backed in the rig, but there was a lot of buildings that were damaged. And so I couldn't even see the Murrah. We were on opposite side of that. That's ladder 7 that you see there. We're on the other side of the building, straight across from where that rig's at. So I couldn't see the Murrah building at first because there was a parking lot across the street from the Murrah, and all those cars had caught on fire. And so the way the wind was blowing, I didn't see it. So there was a multi-story YMCA building that was catty corner from the Murrah. That's on the opposite side of that, where that picture's taken. And there's all these people that are hurt. And so my officer, John Cruz, assigns me to be the triage officer. Now, I got to tell you, I'm a highly trained basic EMT of the ripe old age of 24 years. Probably the most worthless triage officer in the history of triage officers.
Everybody's red.
Yeah, exactly. I got my oxygen kit in one hand and my first aid kit in the other hand, and there's all these people. Like we're just doing the best that we can. But it was, as we're dealing with that, it was me and another firefighter I was with, Marcus Evans. We're going through there and we're helping people, and there's people with some pretty good injuries that are going on, and we can't get an ambulance. And at that time, we had 3 radio channels, and we operated off one citywide at the time. And so
let me ask you a question, Mike, before we go further. Who rolled in first to the scene?
It would have been Station 1.
Did they give any kind of radio transmission?
Oh, the radio was chaos. I think it was actually, it might have been the fire Chief Mars, that got on the scene, or it's Bob McMahon, who would have been 601 at the time. And I remember that what I remember of his radio is on scene was basically the Murrah Building. There's been an explosion at the Murrah Building. It's a multi-story building. Several floors have damage, and there's several car fires and multiple buildings that are damaged in the area. And then it was just complete chaos, or what I remember on the radio. Right. And so, so then once we got done, it was weird. Truck 5, ended up spotting opposite of ladder or truck 7, what you showed in that picture earlier, Gonzo. And they were doing the same thing. They were going to lunch
somewhere. He checked out.
They're making rescues of people that were alive and trapped still on what was left on the floors. And there's one that was pretty famous on the news, Mark Mullman walking a guy down the ladder. Mark, one of the best guys I ever worked with, and that guy that he brought down, he brought donuts to the station all the time for years.
Really?
After that, yeah.
Check out. He'll be back.
And so I remember Chris Fields walking up to me at some point, and he said, I just handed a dead kid over to a cop. Now, at the time, we had no idea what that was going to turn into. And we just, we go back to work.
Right.
And because, and you guys understand this really well from FDNY, you really can't comprehend what's going on. It's so massive. It's so big. You're just dealing with stuff. Mm-hmm. You're just taking care, give you a patient or go look for somebody. You're just doing whatever you get assigned to do and what's needing to be done. And so once we got done, they had my triage area was getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and we couldn't get any ambulances because they're all overwhelmed. And then there was the bomb scare. I don't know if you guys are but they had come across some bombs that actually was training ordnance from I think it was the FBI.
Right.
Yeah. So they call a bomb scare, which cleared everything out. Everybody goes running to the hill.
Box, right? That they think had a what do you call it in it? One of those RPGs or whatever it was.
Yeah, I don't know exactly what it was, but it was convincing enough that they said there's a second bomb.
Right. And how far into the operation from when you guys got there did they call that, where they called everybody off the building, the pile?
Man, I think it was a couple of hours. It may not have been that long, Kenny. I may be telling you wrong on that, but I remember my triage area was full, and then there was the bomb scare, and then I had a handful of people left. It was a miracle. People got healed.
Wow.
And they weren't, I'm saying that jokingly, they were running for their lives.
Yeah.
What they thought. And so, but the bystanders were great, because I'm having to put patients in POVs and telling them, hey, this is a red, take him to this hospital. This person's not critical. Go to one of the hospitals on the north side or one of the suburbs.
Yeah.
So when we got done with that, after the bomb scare, basically the triage area was able to get cleared out pretty quick. Mm-hmm. And then we got assigned to start doing searches inside the building. And so
did you guys were you guys familiar with this building? Had you been in there? You know,
I had not ever been in the inside the building. It was a cool building. The way it was laid out on the other side, you always see the side that where the 5th Street side where the explosion was, but on the 4th Street side was this really beautiful courtyard that was set up, and more people knew about it, and that's what I was familiar with.
Right.
And in fact, because at the time, like after hours and on weekends, downtown Oklahoma City would be like a ghost town. There wouldn't hardly be anybody down there. So a lot of us, we'd get off shift and we would ride mountain bikes and stuff to downtown, to the parking garages and stuff like that. And the Murrah Building, that courtyard, was a fun place to go ride. So no, I'd never been inside of it, but it was, obviously it was a pretty important building.
Yeah, Gonzo, do you have any of the early pictures of the kid or the guy bringing somebody down the ladder?
I had a power failure in the area.
I figured that.
Yes, I have this picture.
Yeah, that's Chris carrying Bailey Almond.
Yeah.
And so what's interesting, that little girl, my wife went to high school with her mom.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Now the mom lived in the Regency across the street. Very close.
She worked in the area. That was another family that lived down the street in the Regency.
Oh, okay.
No, that mom, she was working in the area. She had no idea. She shows up later. Of course, she's frantic. And then some hours later, this picture starts being posted.
Yeah.
And she realizes that's her kid.
Ugh.
And, it's one of those, on one hand, and I'm sure Chris talked about this way more eloquently because he talks about this and handles it magnificently.
Yeah.
But, she didn't ask for her kid to be the symbol.
Yeah.
And she had some hard years for that. And so did Chris.
Mm.
He didn't ask for that. He was just doing his job.
Yeah.
And then he gets just basically to be the face of the rescue efforts of that whole operation.
Yeah.
Yeah. This particular picture I had in my room for a while, not too long after it happened.
Wow. That's hard.
Like on the way to the scene though, like you must have been a mile away and seeing damage and maybe even dealing with or seeing hurt people on the way there. And you're like, all right, where totally is this? Do I stop for this person? Do I keep going? Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah. I didn't see any walking wounded. Like I said, there was all the glass that had been blown out.
Yeah.
And so we made it to 5th Street and we backed in. And as soon as we got out of the rig on 5th Street, we're surrounded by injured people.
Yeah. Okay.
And so that is where, the first rule of triage, you start where you stand.
Mm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, then that's true. That's what you did.
Guys, do you have the picture of the secondary device they thought they had?
You know what? Let me see if I can search it because a lot of the stuff I told you guys was just a lot of these pictures that I was having. But let me see if I can find a picture shows of the secondary device.
I think it's up on one of the upper floors, like the 3rd or 4th floor or something.
Let me see if let me take this off in here. Give me a few minutes to look and see what I can dig up here.
As a young kid, as a 24-year-old kid, seeing that building like that, I must have been like, holy shit. Like, yeah.
Oh yeah. When they got, I think it was 6's, they were the ones that were taking care of the car fire. One of the rigs from ones may have also been helping them with that. Mm-hmm. And whenever they got those car fires knocked out and we get done with that triage area and you look across the street and you see what's going on in the building, like I had never seen anything like that before, Kenny, and had no frame of reference.
Right.
For,
right.
Closest thing I'd say is, footage from war zones.
You feel like you're walking through a movie, right?
Yeah,
like this is made up.
And so what the hell happened here? And again, we're still thinking it's got to be a natural gas explosion because what else is there going to be in Oklahoma City?
Right.
And then you start hearing as we're going through the days, like, oh no, the country's under attack. There's been other cities that have been hit, and again, we don't know.
Right.
And so,
So I want to bring in Phil too because I remember seeing Phil. We got there. We took a second piece that we had. We got down to the Trade Center, like maybe a couple blocks on the West Side Highway when the second tower fell. So, like you say, Mike, like you feel like you're walking through a movie. Like there's people walking around like zombies, covered in dust, blood all over the place, just walking around like they didn't even know where they are. Fireman, same thing, pass alarms going off. And because of all the dust, it felt like it was like Christmas. Not like Christmas, like when it snows out and everything's really quiet. That's what it felt like. And
and let me ask you this, because whenever the people that were coming out of the Murrah Building, they're like I said, they're covered in that dust, but they were all like deaf. Did you guys have that? Like they couldn't hear a darn thing we were saying.
Oh,
They're just like zombies. They're because of what happened.
And you know, and another thing that people who've never experienced it, once you experience it, you'll never forget it. You can smell death in the air.
Yeah.
And people don't know what you're talking about, but when it happens to you for the very first time, you know exactly what it smells like. Exactly what it smells like.
Yeah. And I remember coming around the building. It was weird because there was like a preacher on one corner standing up on a box preaching with a whole bunch of people and praying. And I ran into Phil and he says, we lost about 500 guys here or something like that. I'm like, what? That doesn't even, I wasn't even thinking about that. Like we could have lost 500 guys. That didn't even occur to me for 1 second.
Yeah.
I found this one. I also found this picture to give you a little perspective of what the truck looked like. And I couldn't see anything of the secondary devices, nothing specific that was circled. But if you can make that out a little bit, that's obviously the truck in front of the building and kind of give it a little bit of a layout. Let me see what else did I have loaded here?
Now that truck, and Mike, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but that truck was originally parked on the opposite side of the building, and it was moved to the front side of the building. Because initially they were trying to do the damage not to this building, but to the courthouse, which was on the other side. Is that correct, Mike?
I've heard different versions of that. I've heard that they were trying to do the courthouse, but I also heard that he was trying specifically to get the FBI offices that were in the Murrah Building, because they that was the lead agency that was in Waco, and there was another one that I would have, if you would have told me that the FBI office at Oklahoma City was the lead agency in some of those big operations, I would have had no idea.
Oh, that's actually how they put it together, right? Somebody in the FBI realized that it was the anniversary of Waco. I think I was reading that or watching it somewhere. I don't know.
It's the Branch Davidians. It was, was that Waco, Branch Davidians? Yeah, it was.
Yes.
Yeah, that's who it was.
Right. And it occurred on the same day. So people are like, holy shit. In the FBI, like, I think this is a homegrown terrorist.
Yeah.
Yeah. Phil, how different was that box truck and what they used compared to the 93 bombing in the world?
It was similar. It was similar in size and length. As far as the explosive devices, they were slightly different.
I was also reading something that said in the 93 bombing.
The bomb in the Oklahoma bombing was ammonium nitrate, and the bomb in the World Trade Center was urea nitrate. Different components.
Okay. And how did they set these off? The one in Oklahoma, was it?
Well, they all have. You have a primary explosive, a secondary explosive, which is the larger explosive, and a detonator. So the detonator detonates the primary explosive, and the primary detonates the secondary explosive.
Right. What were they using to detonate the primary? Because cell phones weren't around then, were they?
Didn't he he lit a fuse?
No, it wasn't cell phones that was detonating it. No.
He what?
I want to say he lit a fuse and walked away or jumped in. He had a car. He had a car. No, he didn't have. It wasn't like that.
No, I think it was more electronic timers than anything else.
Okay.
Maybe like a little clock or something.
Not where you would light a match or anything like that.
Okay.
No, electronic timers.
Come on, Kenny. I thought you said you read it.
That's what I thought I read. But
kidding me.
What do I know?
He had a really long, 3 mile fuse. He lit.
Yeah.
The actual explosive equipment used for the Oklahoma City bombing was actually all farming material.
Right.
Stuff
Yeah.
that you would use on a normal farm,
Yeah.
for fertilizing the land and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Ammonium nitrate and fuel oil. Ammonium nitrate is used to oxygenate the soil for farming and stuff. And fuel oil obviously is an easy thing to get, and you mix those two together, and it's what's called a synergistic effect, where the additive effect is 3 + 2 = 5. The synergistic effect is 3 + 2 = 7. So when you mix two chemicals that are basically incompatible or shouldn't be mixed together, and you add a detonator, that's what causes that huge explosion, and that's basically what they did.
Yeah, and I think they found like the axle not that far
Oh
away.
yeah,
right? That's
yeah.
how they
It was
knew.
it was in front of the Regency Tower down the street, and it was late. It hit a car, and it was other people that were talking. Like they would look at the axle. And they at first it didn't. People weren't dawning on what it was,
Right.
and
Right.
then though this was like at the time it was the largest rescue operation. It was also the largest crime scene
Yes.
in American history at the time.
Gonzo, there was one of the pictures that you already showed. If you could bring that picture back up again for a second, I'd like to just point out a few things. It was an overhead picture of the Murrah Building, and there were 2 tents in front of the building.
Yeah,
And there
okay.
were 2 tents to the left of the building.
Yeah.
That's the picture. Okay, you see those 2 white tents there?
You
That
saw
was the FBI's evidence collection area. So when rescuers are actually working in the building, removing rubble or anything like that, when they found anything they thought was suspicious, they would actually take it and bring it to that tent, and it would be tagged. Now, if you look over to the right and you see that olive drab tent and that white tent, that was actually the decon area for this particular operation. So with all of the stuff that was going on, they actually had to segregate different areas, and I just wanted people to know that those were the two areas in particular that got a lot of attention, because everybody coming off the rubble pile needed to go through decon, and that was because one of the things that happened very early in an incident, one of the FEMA USAR task forces, actually not one, 2 of them got sick and had intestinal problems because they were actually working on the rubble pile and eating on the rubble pile while they were working, and a few people got sick, because they were handling stuff and shouldn't have been handling stuff. So we had to change some of our protocols at the incident because of that. So the decon area was set up over there. Everybody had to go through decon, and obviously the FBI collection area was those 2 white tents there. So I just wanted to make that point. Thank you.
So were they thinking maybe radiation?
That was checked by the Oklahoma City Hazmat team early on. I did a lot of talking to the Oklahoma City Hazmat team in the beginning, and there were certain things that we excluded almost immediately, and that was one of the easiest things to exclude was radiation, because it was a quick check for that. But when the guys got sick, that's all because of biological contamination.
Right.
You're working on the rubble pile. You're not washing your hands or your face thoroughly, and you're continuing to work, and so decon became an issue at the site.
So
Mike.
I gotta tell a funny story real quick and it relates directly to decon. So I get assigned to they for what they had the National Guard. They were having them set up a decon area.
Yes, I know what you're going to say.
So I'm helping them, and they start mentioning hydrochloric acid, and I'm going, what? And they said, yeah, we've got the hydrochloric acid for decon, and I'm going, all right. I've never heard of hydrochloric acid being used for decon here, guys. Give me just a second. And Phil, you might have been the guy. I don't know. It was.
Yes, I was the guy. I know the story.
They were like going, and again, this here's segue to another funny story. All right, Oklahoma City, buckle of the Bible belt. All right, that there's a certain way that we talk. So whenever you start dealing with the guys from FDNY, I'm thinking, why are these guys so mad all the time? They're dropping F-bombs.
Angry some bitches.
Man. Yeah, and I remember getting on the horn and saying something about it, and you can hear somebody going, "What the fuck?" And hey, man, I'm just talking.
That's just the way we talk, man.
I was the guy, and I'm going to tell you, I'm going to go into what you just talked about. Okay, so here was the problem. There are 5 different types of decon solutions that you use. Okay, and obviously, acids are actually one of the solutions, but it's in a very, very mild form. In other words, it's very, very diluted, but it's used to eliminate certain types of contaminants. Okay, so here's the problem. Let's just say, and I'm going to go for argument's sake, I'm going to say, take this product and mix it 50 parts to 1 in order to make the solution. So what is the guy thinking in the top of his head? He's saying, well, if 50 to 1 is good, maybe 30 to 1 is better. Or maybe 20 to 1 is better. Not realizing that the problem really is that once you mix a solution that concentrated, it's going to have an adverse effect on skin. So here's what's happening. Some of the people who are going to decon, and Mike, you correct me if I'm wrong here. Some of the people who are going to decon, they're spraying with the solution. And the guys are saying, I'm burning up. I don't know what's wrong. So what do they think? More is better. They continue to spray them. And here's guys being sprayed with a higher concentration of the decon solution than's absolutely necessary. So we're actually injuring people that we're actually trying to decon. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So that was one of the problems, right, Mike, that we came across, and it was no fault. It wasn't the fault of Oklahoma City Fire Department. It wasn't the fault of the USAR teams. It was the fault of the military guys who was basically saying, you know, maybe we'll just give them a little more. It'll make it safer, or make it the decontamination solution will be better. And it was one of the lessons learned from the Oklahoma City bombing is that when we give people solutions to work with, we don't give them the opportunity to make their own solutions. We make the solutions for them. This is what you use under these circumstances, and that's it.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah,
Guys. Yeah. So
that was one burning out of his head.
That was one of the lessons learned from the Oklahoma City bomb.
The only acid I want deconned is the Jimi Hendrix kind. That's it.
But I'm going to tell you something. The Oklahoma City Hazmat team was fantastic. When we gave them something to analyze, those guys were able to take it. They were able to bring it back to their Hazmat unit and do some quick analysis of it and tell us whether we had to worry about this product or not worry about this product. So having them there was absolutely an important part of the operation.
So, Mike,
extremely important part.
So, after how long did the thinking change? Like, you guys are first. There's probably a lot of confusion, a lot of mayhem at first. When did it start to take structure and try to change the operating plan? It's okay. This is what we got to do. This is what's going on here. How long did that take?
It was that bomb scare. As soon as that happened and it got everybody away from the building, it allowed us to go from that chaotic phase into like, hey, here's our plan. And everybody did a good job as far as the command of fire department, police department, and all the different agencies that were on the scene. They had already gone to unified command. And so the second bomb, a lot of people speculated, did they stage the second bomb scare or not? Either way, it saved a lot of lives, probably.
Right.
Because it allowed us to get.
It was a stop and look back up, look at it from back here instead of being up here, right?
Yeah. Then they knew exactly who was working where,
Right.
what objectives were being covered, and that we were working inside the building that whole day. We never, and then as they're getting engineers, that's and you guys will understand this too. People want to talk about safe, not safe. No, it's not safe.
Right.
All right, but you got to do what you got to do, and you're working alongside the engineers, and they're coming up with the engineering solution to brace the building.
Right.
As we're taking stuff down, and again, none of us had gone through USAR training. We didn't know any of that stuff, and so we're just trying to get the people who are in the rubble, and looking in searchable places and doing the best that you can. All the while, there's a simultaneous effort or multiple simultaneous efforts as far as getting the building braced, getting the cranes in, pairing us up with the people, the metal workers, the demolition crews. And then it was, man, USART team started showing up actually pretty quick, but our chief called for them immediately. And so as soon as they could get there, I want to say 12, 18 hours, teams started coming in.
Right.
And so it was, again, to me, I didn't have any frame of reference, but I looked back at it and there was this immense amount of collaboration that was going on and everybody working towards a goal. And again, I'm just one of the worker bees. So there may have been some of that stuff that was going on I wasn't aware of, but it just seemed like everybody was working towards the common goal. And it seemed like it just worked as smooth as it could for a city that didn't have, a lot of these resources on their own.
So, Chief, I was gonna ask you that. How much mass casualty incident training have you guys been to before that, if any? Because after an incident like that, how much have you had since then? It's had to be
so as far as mass casualty, we had our EMT courses, where they talk about that stuff, and we had practiced for like a plane crash,
right?
We'd done mass casualty drills for those, and so we were prepared for it in that context.
Okay,
and that was at the Murrah Building, like all the hospitals, everybody was thinking we're gonna find all these savable victims for days.
Yeah.
Well, we didn't after that first night. The last live victim was taken out, and I want to say they had to do a field amputation on her. I think they got her out a little bit before midnight, and then everything else from that was recovery. We stayed in a rescue mode. I don't remember how many days. And then they switched us to recovery mode. And that's what he's showing here. I got myself and some others, we got placed on the recovery team. And that's when they demobilized a lot of the teams. And Chief Ray Downey stayed behind.
Yeah.
And basically was watching out for us. And there was another guy who was, man, he knew his crap. He was out of California, and I feel bad for not knowing his name. But yeah, that's us. That's the last night of operations right there.
I think I know what guy you're talking about from California. I can't remember his name right now, but he was their special operation.
Yeah, he had a really cool handlebar mustache. Just
can't remember his
super
name.
cool guy.
We had him on the show. I can't remember his name.
Yeah, and of course, Chief Downey. I didn't know who Ray Downey was. He's just this really cool guy from FDNY who's basically having the patience of Job with us. Are the USAR teams working? I can't go on and on about how good all the USAR teams, the teams that were from out, how good they were to us. And
there was 11 task forces assigned to that event. Yeah. Because at the time we had 26 task forces, 11 were assigned to that event,
and they were all amazing. They would let us work right beside them.
Right. And what I can talk a little bit about that because I was one of the core group members of New York's task force, so I knew a lot of the management stuff. There was 11 task forces assigned to that. Each task force was assigned a different time period. There were task forces assigned to day tours, and there were task forces assigned to night tours. And each shift was 12 hours. With a 2-hour briefing on the front end and a 2-hour debriefing on the back end. So every team was working 16 hours a day. 16 hours a day. Between the 12 hours working and 2 hours on the front end and 2 hours on the back end.
Wow.
That's what they were working.
So Gonzo, if you look up, they called it the forest.
Yes.
FDNY guys.
They had a bunch of nicknames for some spots in the building, right? Yeah.
And it was O'Connell and that whole group that built.
Yes, John O'Connell.
This massive amount of shoring, which I thought was
shoring. Yeah, well, I can
cool.
tell you a little bit about that too, Mike. The shoring, when you said they had to take the building down, when they decided they had to take it down, they had to use 60 pounds of explosives just to remove the shoring, because the shoring was incredible in terms of that forest that Mike is talking about.
It's Johnny Collapse.
Well, they had to use that much explosives just to take it down.
Phil, I just wanted to go back and touch on one thing. Before 9/11, we used to have drills on terrorism and mass casualties, and I remember reading in the books. Remember, it had the bullseye in the circle, and it was But they were talking about what's that? Right. They were talking about 20 or 30 people as mass casualties. We would never think in a million years. 343 firefighters and that many civilians.
Let me tell you a quick story. I went to the Oklahoma City bombing, and I said to myself, "This is the worst thing I'm ever going to see in my career." Okay, well, the worst thing I'm ever going to experience. 9/11 happens, and I said, there is nothing in the world that can ever top this. 6 months later, my son is killed in a car accident. There is nothing in this world, or nobody should ever say this is the worst you're going to see in your life, because you never know what the worst you're going to see in your life is, and you can never be prepared for that. You never can be prepared for that. And one of the things that we have learned since Vietnam is that critical incident stress and critical incident stress debriefings are extremely important. People who work at these types of events absolutely need to decompress. If they are taken from a traumatic event like these and put right back in the field, that is one of the most dangerous things that could happen. So for everyone out there who's listening tonight, if your department ever gets in a situation like Mike's had or we've had in New York, you absolutely must decompress your personnel. That becomes absolutely essential. Would you agree with that, Mike?
Yeah, I absolutely would. Because, and you guys will understand this. You don't know. It's not like you feel it in your conscience, because you're just so focused on the job. It's like going, I'm fine, I'm fine, I'm fine, I'm fine. And so when to go through those. And they were trying to do, CISD is what it was called then. And critical. I can remember being
still the same.
Pissed off that they're making me go to this. Because, hey, I'm fine. I don't need this. I don't need it. Which was sign number one. I'm not. Right. If you're mad at the people who were trying to help you, making sure you're okay, there's a sign right there. That you're probably in some denial. And so I completely agree to and realize you got to be patient with that process, because a lot of times the guys, they can't comprehend what the stress is doing to them. So I'm going to give short story on in relation to what Phil's saying is right. So I'm on the recovery. We're working in rescue mode. They switch to recovery. I get put on the recovery team. We're down there doing what we got to do to try to get these people their loved ones back so they can bury them. Operation's over, and a day or two later, I'm back on engine 5, and I'm thinking I'm fine. And where a young man had shot himself in the head. So we get there. He's passed away in the living room. At that time, we would still take the bodies to the hospital. That was the protocol back then. And and I'm ashamed to say this, and that's when I realized that Mike wasn't quite right, is the way I handled the deceased body. Guys, I grabbed him by his hair, I grabbed him by his belt loop, and I just drug him over onto the backboard, and it mortified me because everybody gasped from the scene, like, what the hell did you just do? Yeah. And so Phil, I say that story not to, but you don't even realize the effect, and it takes a while for it to start coming about. And and they've gotten way better at it than what they used to be able to do. To let as unfortunately in America, we got a lot of experience on helping people decompress now. Yeah, this stuff, but yeah, absolutely, it
manifests itself in ways of alcoholism, self-destruction. Yeah. Drug addiction, just anger, not being present for your family.
Just look at the military as a perfect example. I mean, how many suicides do they have from veterans who come back from war zones and stuff like that? It's incredible. Yeah. When you think about it,
Yeah.
Mike, did you have any personal interaction with any people that you saved, like that you guys got out, or you were talking?
No, there was one of the guys that I worked with lost his daughter in the building. There seemed to be a bunch of people that I grew up with that they lost their parents, they lost their folks in there. And then you get to know, like there were people that they were at the building site because we hadn't got to their loved ones yet. And so you would see them, and then like they would be on media crews. They were all from all over the world were here, and they were talking to them. And so you kind of get to know who they are, but I didn't know them beforehand.
Right. How about victims though? Did you have personal interaction with the victims that either?
I didn't. Did I know any of them?
No, not know them, but face to face, one on one. Did you help get any of them out where you had personal one-to-one contact with them?
Man, there was those people in the triage area, and then at the Murrah Building. Now, I never, luckily or unfortunately, I never got to see a live one.
Now, what about as far as I know? What did they say? 19 kids and 6 of them survived. Right? How long did it take them to get to the kids?
Man, I don't remember how many days it took us. I know when we got down as we were delayering it, and when we got to the daycare, they told us they would know. Those guys. Those experts, it was amazing what they knew. They would know what floor we were on or what floor we were getting to. And they told us the day that we were at the daycare.
What level were they at? The daycare?
I think it was 4th.
Uh-huh.
I think it was the 4th floor. And, that day sucked. They all sucked, but that day was
brutal.
Yeah. Yeah. And then another day. It was really bad I think it was on the 1st floor, was the Social Security office. And it was because it was in the middle of the month, a lot of people were there to get either they were doing documentation with Social Security or get their checks. And so there was the line that was S through.
Yeah.
And a lot of those people had kids with them.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
Chief, so I read in the after action report that it took about 17 days to go from a rescue to a recovery, and May 5th was when it went to recovery. And it mentioned, probably on every page, how bad the weather got.
Mm-hmm.
How much did the weather affect the recovery and rescue?
I'm sure it hampered crane operations. When the lightning would come through, they'd have to shut that stuff down. But we never stopped. There might have been stuff that was on the outside that was stopped, but there were areas that we could work inside.
Mm-hmm.
And so, it's springtime. So yeah, there was a lot of thunderstorms that came through. And Kenny, you've worked in the rain. You've worked in storms.
It just like it mentioned it so many times. I was like, wow, that must have really hindered their operations.
Yeah. I do know this. So like the first storm that came through is before they got all the bracing and shoring done. And of course they've got the transits out and they're watching and seeing how much the building's moving. And then when they got the shoring and the bracing all in place, that thing was rock solid. It wasn't going anywhere.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Those guys are amazing, man. Especially
Yeah.
Johnny Claps there, Johnny O'Connell. That guy knows his stuff.
Just for clarification, too, guys, the children's was on the second floor. The children's.
It was second floor.
Second floor.
Yeah.
Second floor.
And did they start finding those kids right away? Because they said 6 survived, so they were in there for a couple of days. The kids.
No. If they were alive, they got them out that day.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Last
So
survivor.
how they survived, who knows? Because grace of God,
Yeah.
because the truck was right out front from there.
The report said the last survivor was pulled at 10:05 p.m. on day 1.
Yeah.
On day 1.
Day 1.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
10:05
They did a field amputation on her.
Mm.
But anyway, yeah, she was it.
Wow.
Holy mackerel. Phil, you know what I was going to say to you? It reminds me a little bit because Mike was talking about how, once things got really rolling and they got the heavy machines in there and the cranes, it reminds me of September 11th, because in the beginning we thought we were going to do something with 5-gallon buckets, and not until they got all the machinery and the pickers in there,
Yeah.
It's amazing. Like, you're looking at it like this, and you think that shit out of there with 5-gallon buckets and and
in the beginning, that's what it was. I mean, it was a lot of that,
Yeah.
Well, and you get
Well,
into
everything that we did, Kev. Once they loaded it into trucks and brought it to the landfill area, it was searched again. We were doing the primary at the site, and the secondary searches were all being done at the Staten Island landfill.
Yeah. Just touch again, Phil, on the schedule that we were working, because you guys were talking about that earlier. When we right after 9/11, we went to the 24. So
Right.
just talk about that briefly, about how Hazmat and SOC.
Well, like in the beginning, the hardest part of doing something like that is going to that schedule and I became the health and safety officer for the firefighters after 9/11, and I testified before Congress a few times, and one of the things that I had said many times is, we did a very good job of taking care of the dead, but we did a very poor job of taking care of the living. And one of the things that is always problematic when you have these huge catastrophic events like Oklahoma City and the World Trade Center is we take our emergency responders and literally we grind them into the ground. And it's because we don't have anyone else. They're our primary resource for taking care of these kind of problems. And unfortunately, they suffer the most, these types of events. They're physically drained, they're emotionally drained. The scars kind of last forever. I mean, you've been to an Oklahoma City bombing, you've been to a World Trade Center bombing. Your friends have perished. People have perished. It's an everlasting scar that really doesn't go away. And this list that you just put up, these are the members of the New York City Fire Department who went to the Oklahoma City bombing. And unfortunately, some of the people who are on this list were actually victims in the 9/11 bombing. And if you just leave it up for a second, I'll go down the list. Jack Fanning was killed on 9/11. Terry Hatton was killed on 9/11.
Esposito, Mike Esposito, Pete Martin.
Killed. Martin was killed. Billy Lake was killed. Kevin Dowdell was killed.
7 guys on that list killed
Yeah,
on 9/11.
These are guys who were in a line of fire, and it's unfortunate. Yeah, thank you for putting that up.
No worries.
Chief, I got a question for you. So on the subject of that, but maybe a little bit further down the road, did any of your guys or any of the first responders or people like the 9/11 guys, all firemen, are all getting sick, all getting cancer? Anybody come down with anything like that?
Thankfully, no.
Okay.
Yeah. Where do you think we are, Phil? Well, you just retired, right, Chief?
Yeah, May 1st.
Where do you think we are as far as being more prepared? Because, like you said before, you can never be prepared for it. But where do you think we are as compared to where we were with these two incidents today?
I think we're much better prepared in a lot of respects. One, so many more people have gotten trained. The FEMA teams were willing to train everybody else around the country. Hazmat teams, the technology has gotten way better. Kenny, to go back to what you're saying, we're much better as far as medically trained. We're much farther along, and I do think if you take the lessons learned from the Oklahoma cities, from the 9/11s, as far as what worked on the executive level, on the management level, what worked, what didn't work. I think we're better off or better prepared. But with that being said, as far as preventing it, obviously that's not our part. We just respond to the aftermath. Unfortunately, the bad guys have gotten better too.
Right. That's what I was just going to say to you. Well, same question to you, Phil. What do you think?
Hold on, let me make sure I unmute him.
Mike is right on the money. I think today, because of our education and experience in dealing with these things, we're able to make responders more resilient and able to bounce back quicker from these types of events. We certainly respond to them better today. Our resources are better today. We know to rotate our people quickly in these types of events where we don't keep the same people on the scene for longer duration. So it lessens the psychological impact on them as well as the physical impact on them. So yeah, I think we're absolutely doing better at these types of events today. Yeah,
I think what we're doing better is until we started getting hazmat training, firemen were always under the assumption, get in there fast, let's go. And then when you go and you talk about the hazmat stuff, it's a slow approach, right? I think we got a little bit better at taking a step back at something like this and maybe not rushing in there as fast as we usually want to do, right?
Right.
Sure.
I think that guys are more educated today. They're better at recognizing those problems, Kevin, like you just mentioned, and we can still get the job done, and we can get it done very effectively, and do our mission. But we do it more educated today than we did in the past.
It reminds me of a story I tell this all the time. Right after 9/11, we had the plane crash in the Rockies,
yes.
Right? And yes. I'm working both days. I'm working that day. And we're going flying down to the Rockies, this giant plume of, and I see off-duty guys flying down there, man. I'm saying,
yes.
Did we not learn anything? Guys are flying in there.
But it's ingrained in you.
I know.
You want to help. That's what we do. You want to get there.
You know what was amazing about that day, and you can attest to this. That incident happened in the morning. By 3:00 in the afternoon, it was done. It was a done deal. We got so many people down there so fast that everything was extinguished, bodies were recovered, and everything was virtually over by like 3 or 4 o'clock in the afternoon. The investigation still went on, but the emergency portion of it was like
every other house is a fireman in the Rockaways, though. There's nothing but firemen down there. Everybody's a fireman.
I've never seen so many houses on fire in my life. It was like a fireman.
But the incident was handled incredibly fast.
Yeah.
The emergency was over incredibly fast. The investigation and the cleanup and stuff was another issue completely. But I'm saying the emergency portion of it was handled like Kevin said. Everybody just raced down there and said, "Okay, we'll take care of this and get it out of the way."
Right,
Chief. That kind of puts me to ask you, did they have a complete emergency recall, and who was covering the firehouses for the regular runs around Oklahoma City?
So they did a recall, and there was also a lot of the neighboring communities came in and covered for us because it was a general alarm that first day, and off-duty people came in, but we did get inundated by self-dispatching people from all over the country that showed up at the site, And I can remember it infuriated a lot of us. I look back at it now and realize the Chiefs were handling it really well. What they did is there was all these guys, these departments from around the area, and that self-dispatch, and some of them were requested. They had them work during the day, and then they had us work at night for the first couple of days. Man, we were pissed. Like, that's our building. We should be the ones down there. But I look back at it now, the Chiefs were right. That was the way to do it, to as far as using the resources the correct way. And I want to go back to something you said about, are we better? Here's what I don't know, and only time will tell if we're better. And Phil's going to know exactly what I'm talking about. When the incidents happen, you're there working, and we know we need to take care of ourselves. We know we need to limit our time on the pile. We know we need to do all that stuff. But if I looked at you, Kenny, and said, Kenny, come off the pile, Kenny's not happy.
No.
You're gonna have to drag me off this pile.
Kenny's not happy about that, right?
Right.
And so to have for those that are in leadership to realize, like, you're not going to be liked when you do it, but you got to.
Yeah.
And just realize they're going to be pissed at you, and it's going to take a while, but eventually they're going to realize, and I got to make it to the next. Next incident. So,
that's why you get promoted.
That's why you get promoted
to make the difficult decisions, the not popular decisions with the men. Somebody's got to do it.
Yeah, Kenny, you say that too. Now you got me thinking, man. Like, we had guys backfilling our firehouse, and there were guys stepping up. I mean, they weren't going on the specialty stuff; they were just going as an engine.
Yeah,
and these guys were doing the right thing, stepping up and covering the firehouse. And I remember coming back so fucking angry and being such a dick to these guys, man. Because you spend all day down there. We find out we're missing 19 guys from our house, and these guys are in our house. Watching TV and watching the ball game. You just so goddamn pissed off.
Right.
And I can't thank those guys enough, man. They did like 136, 287. All those companies who stepped up and backfilled for us. I mean, I could go back.
You weren't thinking straight at that time. You I can't even imagine what you guys were thinking.
You were just on autopilot, I'm sure. Just kind of, not even really, things weren't registering. Really quick, Chief, is anybody still on the job that was working with you that day?
Fire Chief Richard Kelly, who showed that picture, he's still around. The guy in the fatigues there, the tall guy on the left.
Is he taller than you? He looks taller.
No,
you're a pretty tall guy.
I'm actually taller than him. I don't know if I'm standing in a hole or whatever. I think in that picture, he's the last one left. There's only a handful of guys that are still on the job. Now there's the guy that's standing, that Richard, the fire chief's got his shoulder on. He's passed away.
That sucks.
Everybody else is doing. John Hansen, unfortunately, he passed away. He's kneeling down in the with the coat next to Mike Shannon, who's wearing the red shirt.
Yeah.
But everybody else I think they're doing okay.
Wow.
Good.
So you said they finally imploded the building, right?
Yeah.
And that's how you got the last victim out?
Yeah, that last night we got to her, and of course they're using the heavy excavators and stuff. And they went to move a slab off there, and the building groaned, and they said, "Nah, it's not worth it." And that was the right call.
Yeah,
for them to do that at that point.
That's got to be a tough conversation if they make that conversation to the family members who know that they're missing and they're the last one.
Right?
Yeah. Like, listen, we this is what we have to do. That's tough.
Yeah.
Well, remember, not that I wasn't there. I wasn't able to. My father-in-law passed away right before the Surfside collapse, and obviously there was 198 people in that building. And a very similar thing. They didn't want to search that part of the building that was still standing. They brought it down, and then we delayed the whole thing. And obviously got all the 98 bodies out. That was just the same kind of concept where they weren't. They don't want to work in there anymore.
98 people at guns?
Yeah, 98 people.
Wow, man.
What's there now, Chief?
So they made it's a really amazing memorial that they put where the Murrah Building was standing. It's absolutely beautiful. And then Gonzo, that picture you had up just now, that last one you had up,
with the implosion.
Yeah, I'm actually going to talk about the building. That building that's across the street from it, the one to the right, That was called the Journal Records Building. That's where they have the Memorial Museum in there. And they've done a really fantastic job of memorializing the site. If you guys ever get into Oklahoma City, hit me up. I would love to take you down there and show you, because they did a really good job. That courtyard that you see behind the building where the trees are at, that's still there.
Really?
That's part of the memorial.
Mm-hmm.
Guys, you got a picture of the new memorial?
I'm working on it right now.
You would be. You're good like that.
The memorial looks like it almost looks like a bunch of seats.
It
right?
is. That's exactly what it is.
Yeah.
Oh, I think I've seen that. You're right.
Mm-hmm.
And then they closed down Fifth Street where Fifth Street was at there, and they've made that a reflection pool.
Oh wow.
Yeah, they did a really good job with it. And then like other things that have happened, the city, it's the city rally. They did, the Oklahoma City's much more robust than what people would have ever thought.
Oh, there you go.
Wow.
The population's grown. They have the Run to Remember every single year, which is the Memorial Marathon,
Mm-hmm.
which is one of the coolest things you ever get to be part of, is because they make a whole weekend out of it. And
Oh wow.
so yeah, they do really good work. So you see the reflection pool in that picture, and then across the street is from that is where this big area that you can see. Yeah, then that has the names of the departed on every one of those seats. And if you notice, some of them are littler.
They're smaller.
That's
So
the
kids.
children.
Oh man, that's a heartbreaker. That's
It's weird because when that happened, I don't think anybody knew that there was a daycare in there, or and it was like, what? There's kids in there too. Like, so that was
Yeah.
Well, there's a documentary on Netflix if you want to catch up with it. It tells you all what's going on.
Yeah. Supposedly, there's a couple of shots if you want to see a 24-year-old version of me. And of course, the camera shot is I've got the biggest holy shit look on my face.
Look at this guy.
I'm not looking heroic, dudes.
Looks like this guy just looks like he shit himself.
Yeah, it's exactly what it looks like. Yeah.
That's a nice picture right there.
Yeah, they did a really good job. And that tree, they called it that has the ring around it.
Mm-hmm.
They call that the survivor tree. It's just an elm tree, and they have, whenever they realized that was going to be part of the memorial, they, all the saplings for that, they have saved those, that if that tree ever dies, they can just replant another one.
That's cool.
Wow.
Yeah.
Didn't that doesn't they have the survivor tree at the World Trade Center Memorial as well? They have a single tree that they have. I'm having a brain fart, but I'm thinking it's the same thing, that the only tree that survived the collapse.
I got the
Yeah,
reflection.
probably so. Yeah.
What does Phil say?
Phil
I'll
said
mute him.
something.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, because he was echoing a little bit. Sorry, Phil.
Yeah, they do.
Okay, that's what I thought. I remember I go look at it when I'm there. I just couldn't remember if it had the same name.
Excellent. Any closing thoughts?
Not sure.
Sort of throw out.
I mean, you get through Oklahoma City, Mike, and then you just go on with your career. But it must have been on your mind just constantly.
Oh yeah. It's basically, where you were before, where you were during, where you were after. That's definitely a pivotal moment. It's just like 9/11. I'm assigned to training when that happened. You remember it's one of those things. The clock stopped.
Yeah.
Where were you before? Where were you during there? And so, yeah, it's definitely something that you never forget. You never. You get past it in a way. You learn to live with it, and you there's things that were obvious. Things that you wish you wouldn't have to experience personally, and you obviously didn't want that to happen to any of the victims and those families, because those lives are changed forever, and it probably has a generational effect as well.
Yeah.
But then there's also, Kenny, there's things that you learn about yourself, you learn about your neighbors, all the way from New York City, and how people will come together and do things. And then as what I've seen happen with my city since then, it's amazing.
Yeah.
We saw a ton of guys all over the world, man, who would come in.
Yeah.
I can't believe this many guys are coming in from all over the world, right, Phil?
Yeah. Sorry. Yeah, sorry. Here he is. Yeah, it was, I remember even part of it. People leaving South Florida to get there. They were driving immediately after. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it can be overwhelming, all the people coming to give you support and stuff too. That sometimes you need to be shielded from that.
We had more people stop at the firehouse
because it becomes overwhelming.
Yeah.
You know.
At some point, we had to just close the doors and just heal with each other, because it was just
Yes.
constant people coming to the house.
Yes.
Constant.
Yes.
Yeah.
A lot of cake.
Yeah.
A lot of cake.
Develop diabetes.
Yeah.
It's hard. It's not.
What are you going to do in retirement, Chief?
So I'm teaching some. I'm gonna do that, and then we're gonna travel.
Nice.
Gonna try
Good for
to
you.
redefine what I see as success now. Instead of chasing it, I'm gonna try to do the whole. So I've done the whole Western culture type of thing of ambition, stuff like that. Now I'm gonna try the whole Eastern thing, and
Come to the firehouse on 9/11.
Yeah.
yeah.
Right?
Check
Yeah,
out.
visit
Go to
us.
Iceland. Go to Iceland.
Yeah.
Everybody says go to Iceland. I'm going to take my wife there. She keeps asking me.
It's awesome.
Yeah?
Awesome.
I will
Yeah, I
talk.
loved it. I loved it. Yeah.
We'll talk.
We got a commercial. I wanted to just share. Phil took the time to send us a few photos. I just wanted to click through a few, if that was all right. If we had a few minutes.
Son of a gun, you haven't went through them yet? What are you doing?
Yeah, I want to wait for the opportunity for the man to be ready for him. So we got a little.
Look at that young face guy.
Wow.
Holy moly. Yeehaw. Stick it in your grandma.
Yeah. Stick it in your grandma.
This is on the bus from Kennedy Airport to Floyd Bennett Field. That's myself and Jack Fanning. And we're actually going there after coming back from Oklahoma. So this is coming back from Oklahoma.
Great guy, Fanning.
Yeah.
Yep. And this is Craig Shelley, one of the other task force leaders. We had 3 task force leaders with us in Oklahoma. We had Jack Fanning, Craig Shelley, and Ray Downey. So these were the guys who
Who's Ray Downey? No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding, buddy. I'm just.
Okay,
right,
you're next. This is Dan Rather with that's Jack Fanning. This is Charlie Wells, Eddie Beban, and Mike Spall. He interviewed them after we came back from Oklahoma.
Look how young Spall looks.
Yeah.
Wow, he's an engineer too, isn't he?
Yes, he is. He's a
Check
PE.
him on the show.
Nice.
He's an engineer. This is me. And,
sorry. You can finish your thought there. Sorry about that. I don't want to jump ahead.
He is him, myself, and John Flynn were the 3 engineers on the team.
Oh, John, that's right, Mr. Flynn.
Yeah. We were all engineers. This is myself and the lieutenant governor. What they did is the night before we were leaving Oklahoma, they had a party and reception for us at the Cowboy Hall of Fame, and then after the reception, all of the legislators from Oklahoma were at the Cowboy Hall of Fame to recognize us, and then afterwards we went to this hotel where they actually had another reception for us. So this was me and the lieutenant governor.
You buy that hat in Oklahoma, Phil?
What?
You buy that cowboy hat in Oklahoma?
Yes.
Nice.
Yes. Okay.
Milner.
This is Mike Milner.
Oy vey.
Oh God.
Who's that next?
Myself and oh God, I forget. A gentleman from Rescue 2, and they were giving us awards, these medals for going to. When we came back from Oklahoma, the reception that we got in New York City was overwhelming. Wow. We were invited to so many events. We were invited to a game at at Yankee Stadium. We were invited to Carnegie Hall, and it just got to a point where guys were saying, "Oh, we can't keep doing this." They're recognizing us for doing what we normally do. It's all these poor people who are at these events who deserve more recognition than we do, Sure. And it was right. and I think a lot of the recognition, a lot of people don't realize this, but the New York City task force, we were working at night and we recovered a third of the bodies ourselves. which was an astronomical number when you compare it to the 11 task forces that were there. So we had done a tremendous amount of work. Okay, next slide, if you don't mind. This is myself and Steve Kaufman. He had set up something at the New York State Assembly for us all to be honored up there. Okay. Next one. This is us with Governor Pataki, and this is all the members of the New York City Task Force, the firefighter section of the New York City Task Force.
Very
So, Timmy Brown.
Is that Hatton in the background?
Jimmy
Nick.
Ellison, Cassani,
That looks like Timmy.
Carthy,
Yeah, right.
Shelley,
I mean,
Malisi, Mike Spall, there's O'Connell, there's John Ferry, Jack Fanning, Terry Hatton, Eddie Beban.
Terry Hatton, not Timmy.
Timmy. Yeah, Terry. I know what you meant.
Mike Milner,
What
Kenny
do you-
Memon, Dowdell, myself, so those were
Very
those
nice.
are the
Only a couple
guys.
more.
This is myself at Tinker Air Force Base, and I'll tell you a very interesting story. We're getting ready to leave on this aircraft. This is a C-5A, and we're getting ready to leave on this aircraft, and we get on the plane, and we're just about to leave Tinker Air Force, and we're rolling down the runway. We had just gotten, we're just getting ready to go, and you know how like they do a briefing before you take off of what you're supposed to do in case there's a problem? Well, here's the problem. We're on a C-5A, the cargo was on the lower level. We're sitting in seats similar to you would see on an aircraft on the upper level on a commercial airline. And he's describing to us what to do in case we have to evacuate the Air Force guy. So he's saying, we have to get off the plane. There's an emergency. So everybody's sitting there. And he's saying, no, we really have an emergency. The problem is our right wing is on fire. One of the engines on the plane catches fire. So what happens is they have to stop the plane on the runway. We exit the plane. We come down the steps, exit the plane, and now we're on the tarmac, right? So Air Mobility Command in Kansas is called to get us another plane to take us home because we came to Oklahoma on a C-141. We had to fly home on a C-5A because of all the extra equipment that they had given us. So the problem is the only available plane for us is in Bolivia. And we have to wait until that plane is flown from Bolivia to Tinker Air Force Base in Oklahoma before we can get home. So we're going to be delayed 8 hours, 9 hours tops. So now they take everybody off the plane and they tell us, look, we have to do something with you for 9 or 10 hours. Your flight is not going to be ready to go. So some of us go to back to an area where we can sleep. Other guys go to a movie theater on the base. Some of us go to the golf course. Well, the local radio station finds out that some of the New York task force guys are stuck because of our plane being delayed, right? And they're playing golf at the local golf course. So what happens? The local residents decide that they're going to come out and they're bringing us cases of beer so that we have something to drink while we're playing golf.
Yeah, you got to stay hydrated. You got to be hydrated.
Me, Kenny Memon, Mike Cassani, Steve Cassani, and a few others. We're playing golf, and all these people are coming on to the golf course while we're playing and bringing us cases of beer to drink.
No,
so,
allegedly. Allegedly.
So we were delayed 8 hours flying back to New York. When we finally got back to New York, normally when you fly on military aircraft, you land at a military base. They decided that they were going to fly us into Kennedy. So we fly into Kennedy, and what happens is all of our wives are supposed to meet us at Kennedy. Wives and family are meeting us at Kennedy. And now they decide they're not going to let us get out at Kennedy Airport, but they're going to take us in buses and they're going to take us back to Floyd Bennett Field, where all of our family is waiting for us. So it was like an 80 vehicle motorcade from Kennedy Airport back to Floyd Bennett Field to get back. So it was,
with Phil and his cowboy hat.
it was one thing, one right.
Good thing you had plenty of beer.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Plenty
it
for
was
the
a good
ride.
thing we had plenty of beer.
For hell yeah.
What else you got, Cons?
I have one more. Sorry, I was looking at something else. Here we go. I have actually one more after this, but
Lieutenant
this
Governor
was,
Philly Mack.
Lieutenant Governor Philly Mack, and then this one.
That's me, my brother. Okay,
Look
go
at
back
Rudy.
for that one second. That's me, my brother. That's Terry Hatton, and these people are from Oklahoma. All right, next slide. This is McCarthy from Rescue 4, Kenny Memon, Rescue 4, myself, and Giuliani. And this was, when we landed at Kennedy, we had to stay on the plane so all the politicians could come on and tell us how wonderful we were before we got off the plane. So this was their photo op. They wanted to take pictures.
I said you gave him your hat. The cowboy hat.
No, he had one, and I had one.
Nice.
They were given out by everybody.
Very nice.
So that
All
was,
right. We got FRC.
Yes, please. Let's do our.
Here we go. Hold on, gentlemen.
The First Responders Center for Excellence is a not-for-profit organization dedicated to protecting the lives and livelihoods of first responders. Their education and research initiatives aim to bring greater awareness and understanding to the challenges to the health, safety, and well-being of firefighters, EMS personnel, and other first responders, too. They are an affiliate of the National Fallen Firefighter Foundation.
All right, so I know Kenny is big on the mental health as well, right? I've been
Yes,
doing some
correct.
research actually, and I'm going to delve into it a little more. But so far, what I got is we all talk about PTSD, right? Post-traumatic stress disorder, right? But I actually think that firefighters, I don't know if you've ever heard of this, Kenny, suffer from chronic trauma stress disorder, which means that the post-traumatic is one event or maybe two events that happen in your life. What people don't realize is that firefighters struggle with chronic. It's something over the course of their whole career. And what chronic can manifest itself into is it can take over in a physical form as well. Heart rate, breathing, digestion, everything. It manifests itself not only mentally, but physically. So just to keep an eye on that, there is a difference in post-traumatic and chronic. So
Yeah, completely.
I'll be getting a little more into that as I do a little more research. But these are all stuff. Don't be afraid to go get checked out. Get a checkup from your neck up, right?
Just want to say is anybody out there, that's been through something like this, granted, first responders, firemen, cops, we've been through a lot more. The chronic stress, most people have gone through one or two real traumatic incidents in their lives. First responders go through some every day and then they go right back to work. And every day, just like you were saying, you guys aren't alone. We're not alone. Get help. Talk to somebody. Trust me. Get it off your chest. You'll be better off. We'll all be better off with you getting off your chest and helping you and just having you around.
And like what Phil said before, when you think this is the worst thing you've ever seen, something else could come rolling on in your life.
Yep.
So
Yep.
it's something that you got to keep fighting your whole life.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
My
Never
sentiments
stop.
exactly. Yep. I can't tell you, it helped me after the Douglas shooting. Just having a conversation with somebody, not to keep it bottled up. So that's one thing I stress. So I echo those sentiments exactly as far as just having a conversation and don't keep it bottled up.
Yep.
All right. I want to give best wishes to my man Ruffy out there. I don't know if he watched it all tonight. Maybe he's juiced up on something, you know what I mean? A little pain meds or something. But speedy recovery for Ruffy. I want to thank Phil and Chief Mike. I think this is one of the better shows that we've ever done. It flowed great. The information was amazing, and the firsthand accounts.
Yeah, great
So
stuff.
much. I'm going to keep you on speed dial, bro. We can keep you coming on.
Hey,
I want to do something like you were talking about before on the history of Hazmat. If you don't mind, I'll give you a tickle.
Yeah.
Some stuff.
Yeah.
We'll talk about the history of Hazmat.
do that.
Yep.
Sure.
Chief Mike Walker.
All right.
Yes.
Appreciate you coming on. Enjoy that
Thanks for having
retirement, brother. Collect for another 50 years, I hope.
Hope
Chief.
so.
It was an honor having you on. It was great to meet
Thank
you.
you guys.
You know, I really
Yeah, for
appreciate it.
sure. Just make sure you let us know as soon as you have that dream where you can't find your fucking gear. Okay. Because it's coming. I mean, not for me. I'm not there yet. I saw about 7 years ago, but I love hearing it from the guys. Yeah, I got it. It happened to me. So
Well, I know 3 guys that are possibly going on the boat trip. I know 2 guys who aren't coming. So
sorry.
yeah, so you'll be getting the e-fight, Chief Mike Walker.
I look forward to it. Yeah.
You'll get it too. We'll have another good time.
For sure.
What do we got on Thursday, Gons? We have something? I don't know.
Yes, you
What do
do.
we have?
You know what? Let me take a quick peek because I
Come
I
on,
put
dude.
my stuff on the calendar that I was not going to be here next.
Oh, well, you're not here
Oh
again?
no! Next week is the 5th. So you
Yeah.
have Syracuse Expo.
Oh, next week already?
It's the 5th.
Oh,
No,
man.
stand corrected. I lied to you. Oh no, yeah. What the hell am I saying? I'm a little off too. I got my
Oh,
surgeries on June
Gonzo,
2nd.
Gonzo on point again.
We wish Gonzo the best on his,
I just saw my surgery and I'm like, whoa, holy
on
shit.
his hernia operation.
Yes, I got an addictomy.
Get well, and me and Ruffy will be up in Syracuse, so we won't have a show next week. We'll have a show the following week. But tomorrow, catch the Cup of Joe and Fuego. That'll be be airing tomorrow, and look for the new membership coming up. And that's all I got. You got anything, Guns? Any shout outs? Anything, Kenny?
No.
Nope.
Any shout outs?
Thank you guys again for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
Any shout outs you want to give to anybody?
Man, as I think back to those guys that I work with, Chris Fields, Mike Shannon, all those guys that paved the way for me. I was grateful for them, and those that are still doing it today. They're 10 times better than we ever were, and I know they're going to keep doing great stuff. And so, too many people to say thank you to, but it's, God bless all of you.
All right. What about you, Philly Max?
Thanks to all of you guys. You guys are what makes it special. You really are.
So you're the best. So many
Nice
good memories.
to meet you, Phil.
All right, Delaney,
Hey.
we'll be talking to you. You'll be
Bye.
filling it again.
Thank you.
Love having
Appreciate
you
it.
on. All right,
Bye.
guys.
All right, Megan.
Good luck
Take
with the
care, my
nutsack
man.
surgery. I'll talk
Take
to
care,
you.
guys.
Until then, stay low and go.
You got to stay low and
Okay.
go. You got to say, see you at the big one, and we're rolling heavy in South Florida. Just for
I'll
Louis.
be to Louis. I'll
Just
see you
for
I
then.
got to say, see you at the big one.
No, you can say whatever you want.
Look at your own.
I'm going to
You're
say, remember, it must be true if you heard it at the kitchen table.
Ah.
That's right.
All right.
All right, guys. Have a good night, everyone.
Bye.